The letter sat on the desk for a long time before Bruce Lee sent it. When it finally went, the words inside it contained an admission that contradicted the most famous story in martial arts history. He had trained under the great Ip Man. His name was on the school register, and yet in his own handwriting, to the man who had actually taught him, he wrote something that almost nobody knows, something that changes the entire story of how Bruce Lee became Bruce Lee. Hong Kong, late 1950s, the Wing Chun school run by Grandmaster Ip Man occupied a modest space in Kowloon, and it was here that a 13-year-old Bruce Lee arrived for the first time, searching for something specific. He had been in a street fight and lost. Not badly, not catastrophically, but enough to understand that his instincts alone weren't sufficient protection on the streets of Hong Kong. He needed a system. He needed instruction from someone who actually knew what they were doing. A friend brought him to Ip Man's door. What he found there was a world that would either make him or reject him. And for reasons nobody in the room that first day could have predicted, it nearly did both at once. Ip Man accepted him, but the rest of the school didn't. And that tension, simmering from the very first week, would shape Bruce Lee's entire development as a martial artist in ways that the legends never quite capture. The problem was Bruce Lee's blood. His mother, Grace Ho, was of Eurasian descent, part European, and in the martial arts world of 1950s Hong Kong. That was not a minor biographical detail. The code of secrecy around Chinese martial arts was absolute among traditional practitioners. These systems had been developed and protected over generations precisely to keep them within the community. Teaching a non-Chinese person was viewed as a betrayal, not just of a tradition, but of a people. And Bruce Lee, despite his Chinese father and his Chinese name and his entirely Chinese upbringing, carried European blood in his ancestry. To some of the senior students in Ip Man's school, that was enough. They organized. They went to Ip Man with a formal objection, arguing that Lee's heritage disqualified him from receiving Wing Chun instruction. They wanted him removed. Ip Man listened, considered, and refused. He kept Lee in the school, defending his right to train over the objections of students who had been there years longer and carried considerably more social authority in the community. It was, by any measure, a significant act of support from a grandmaster who could easily have taken the simpler path. But what happened next is the part nobody tells. Ip Man's solution to the conflict was not to confront it directly. It was to redirect, rather than continuing to teach Bruce Lee himself and risking constant disruption from the objecting students. He delegated. He assigned the teenager to Wong Shun Leung, one of his most senior and trusted disciples, a formidable fighter known throughout Hong Kong's challenge match circuit for his ability to test techniques under real pressure rather than controlled conditions. Wong would handle Lee's development from that point forward. Ip Man would remain the school's grandmaster, Lee's nominal teacher of record, but the actual instruction, the daily training, the corrections and the pushing, and the 1,000 small moments that actually build a martial artist would come from Wong. For years, nobody outside a small circle knew this arrangement existed. Bruce Lee trained intensively under Wong Shun Leung through his remaining years in Hong Kong, developing at a rate that Wong himself described as unusual, a student who absorbed instruction and immediately tested it, questioned it, pushed its boundaries, rather than simply accepting and repeating it the way most students did. The speed of his development was remarkable enough that it generated resentment among other students who had trained for years longer and watched a relatively new arrival accelerate past them in ways that felt personally offensive. Lee's status as a child actor, already established before he arrived at the school, added a layer of celebrity to the mix that the traditional school environment had no framework for handling gracefully. He left Hong Kong for the United States in 1959 at 18, sent partly by his family and partly by circumstances that had made staying increasingly complicated. He had been involved in too many street fights, some won impressively, some carrying consequences that his family preferred to put distance between. He left without completing his Wing Chun training, without reaching the level that would have qualified him as a formal disciple in the traditional system. He would never return to finish it. In the years that followed, as Lee built his own schools in Seattle and Oakland and began developing the ideas that would eventually become Jeet Kune Do, he stayed in contact with Wong Shun Leung. The letters went back and forth, sometimes discussing technique, sometimes philosophy, sometimes simply maintaining the connection between a teacher and a student who had both moved forward from where they started. And in one of those letters, documented and preserved, Bruce Lee wrote the sentence that reframes everything. He told Wong that even though he was technically a student of Ip Man, in reality, he had learned his kung fu from Wong, not from the Grandmaster whose name would eventually be spoken in the same breath as his own across the entire world, from the man Ip Man had sent him to when keeping him had become complicated. Ip Man died on December 2nd, 1972, from laryngeal cancer in his apartment in Hong Kong. Bruce Lee died 7 months later. The two men who had defined a critical chapter of each other's lives ended within a single year of each other, without the world fully understanding the true shape of what had passed between them. The legend that grew afterward simplified everything. Ip Man became the Grandmaster who saw Bruce Lee's greatness and shaped it. Bruce Lee became the student who emerged from that shaping to change the world. The story was clean and satisfying and largely true in its broad outline. But it lost the complicated middle, the other students who tried to force him out, the delegation to Wong, the letter that admitted what the formal record never showed. It lost the truth that the most famous teacher-student relationship in martial arts history was, from the inside, considerably more complicated than either man's legend needed it to be. What actually shaped Bruce Lee in those Hong Kong years wasn't a single Grandmaster's personal attention. It was the pressure of being unwanted, the discipline of working under someone who tested him rather than simply guided him, and the experience of building skill in an environment that was actively hostile to his presence. He learned to fight in a school where some of the people around him wanted him gone. That tension didn't break him. It produced exactly the kind of relentless, questioning, assumption-testing approach to martial arts that he carried with him to America and spent the rest of his life developing into something entirely his own. The letter to Wong Shun Leung was never meant to be public. It was one man thanking another, honestly, for what had actually happened between them. But it survived, and it tells a story that the legends, for all their power, never quite managed to. The foundation of Bruce Lee's greatness was laid not in a single master's perfect transmission, but in the complicated, contested, beautifully imperfect circumstances of a school that almost threw him out, and the teacher who, when the Grandmaster stepped back, stepped forward instead.